Alright, so this happened to my buddy Caleb's family a few years back. Caleb doesn't like to talk about it much, but he told me over some beers one night, and it's haunted me ever since. It started with Caleb's younger sister, Emma. She was 8 at the time and obsessed with dolls. Like, we're talking full-blown collection status. Porcelain ones, those weird fabric ones, even a few of those creepy old-school ones with the eyes that blink. For Christmas that year, their grandma gave her this one doll that was different. It wasn't in a box, just wrapped in tissue paper, and it looked old. Really old. Its face was pale porcelain with painted features, and the eyes weren't glass. They were realistic. Too realistic. The thing about this doll, though, it smelled. Not bad exactly, but kind of like old flowers or potpourri that had gone stale. Caleb said just opening it gave him goosebumps, but Emma loved it instantly. Now, the thing that was weird right away was that no one knew where Grandma got it. She couldn't remember. She said she picked it up somewhere special because Emma had been such a good girl that year. Classic grandma vagueness, right? Anyway, Emma named the doll Annette and carried it everywhere for days. About a week after Christmas, Caleb started noticing strange things around the house. First, it was small stuff. Annette would show up in random places, sitting on the counter, propped up in a chair, when no one had moved her. At first, everyone blamed Emma, but she swore she hadn't touched it. Then the noises started. Caleb would wake up in the middle of the night, hearing soft tapping on the walls. At first, he thought it was just pipes or the house settling, but then he realized it wasn't random. It was rhythmic, like someone was trying to spell something in Morse code. The first real scare happened to Emma. One night, she woke up screaming bloody murder. Caleb and his parents rushed to her room to find her sitting up in bed, clutching Annette like her life depended on it. She said the doll had told her a secret in the middle of the night. She wouldn't say what it was, but Caleb said the look on her face was pure terror. His mom brushed it off as a nightmare, but Caleb swore he saw Annette's lips looked different, like they'd been pursed slightly, as if she had just been whispering. Things escalated fast after that. The tapping on the walls got louder, and one night, Caleb swears he saw shadows moving in the hallway, even though everyone was asleep. Emma started talking to the doll constantly, but not like playtime talk. These were serious conversations. One day, Caleb overheard her whispering, "No, I won't do it. You can't make me." The last straw came about 2 weeks later. Emma had been keeping Annette on her nightstand, and one morning, they woke up to find deep scratches running down the wall next to her bed. 4 parallel lines, almost like claw marks. Emma swore she didn't do it, and there was no way she could have reached that high on the wall. Caleb said the family dog, Bunny, refused to go near her room after that, whimpering any time he got close. Finally, Caleb's dad had enough. He took Annette out to the backyard and burned her in the fire pit. Caleb said the doll didn't burn like normal. Its face blackened and cracked, but the body took forever to catch, almost like it didn't want to. Emma screamed and cried the whole time, but as soon as the doll was gone, the weird stuff stopped. No more tapping, no more scratches, no more shadows. Emma refused to talk about it for months, and even now, Caleb says she gets weirdly quiet if you bring it up. Here's the part that messes me up, though. A few weeks after they burned the doll, Caleb was cleaning out the garage when he found something in an old shoebox. Annette's head. Just the head. No body, no burn marks. Just that pale porcelain face, staring up at him with those 2 real eyes. He threw it out immediately, but he swears he still hears tapping on his bedroom wall some nights. Alright, so this is something that happened to me about 10 years ago, and I've never been able to explain it. Every time I tell it, people assume I'm making it up. I was 17, and it was the first Christmas after my parents split up. It was a weird year, kind of lonely, and my mom and I didn't have a lot of money, so we kept things small. A couple of days before Christmas, a package arrived at the house. It wasn't wrapped in festive paper or anything, just a plain cardboard box with my name on it. There wasn't a return address, but it wasn't unusual for random packages to show up. My mom had an aunt who sent weird stuff from time to time. When I opened it, there was a small antique mirror inside, about the size of a dinner plate. It was round, with a heavy ornate brass frame that looked super old. The glass was slightly cloudy, like it had seen better days, but it still reflected pretty clearly. I figured it was from my great aunt and set it up on my dresser without thinking much of it. The first night after I put it up, I noticed something odd. When I glanced at it while getting ready for bed, I could have sworn I saw movement in the reflection. It wasn't me. Whatever I saw was slower, like a shadow passing in the background. I turned around, but nothing was there. I told myself it was just my imagination and went to sleep. The next night it happened again. This time, it wasn't just movement. I thought I saw something in the reflection, standing in the corner of my room. It was blurry, like a smudge on the glass, but I could make out a shape. A person. Tall, with long limbs, standing completely still. I whipped around, heart racing, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. I told my mom about it the next morning, but she laughed it off. "It's an old mirror," she said. "You're probably just seeing scratches in the glass." Over the next few nights, it got worse. I started waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was watching me. Every time, my eyes would go straight to the mirror. Sometimes, I'd see the shadowy figure standing there, closer than before. Once, I swear, it was right behind me, almost leaning over my shoulder. But when I turned around, nothing was there. One night, I decided I'd had enough. I grabbed the mirror, put it face down in a box, and shoved it into the back of my closet. That night, for the first time in days, I slept without waking up. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A few nights later, I woke up to the sound of something scraping. It was soft, like nails against wood, and it was coming from my closet. I froze, staring at the door, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Then the door creaked open, just a couple of inches, but enough for me to see that the box was sitting on the floor, and the mirror was leaning against the side, upright, reflecting the dim light from my nightstand lamp. In the mirror, I could see my room, but something was wrong. The reflection didn't match what I was seeing with my own eyes. In the mirror, the closet door was wide open, and the shadowy figure was standing inside, staring right at me. I don't think I've ever moved so fast in my life. I grabbed the mirror, ran outside, and tossed it into the garbage can at the curb. I didn't even care that it was freezing cold and I was barefoot. I just wanted it gone. The next morning, I checked the garbage can, and it was empty. The trash truck had come, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. Here's the part that still messes me up, though. A week later, another package showed up at the house. Same plain cardboard box, no return address, and my name written on it in shaky, uneven handwriting. My stomach dropped as soon as I saw it. When I opened it, there was no mirror this time, just a piece of glass, shattered into dozens of tiny shards, with a note that said, "You can't get rid of me." We moved out of that house the following summer. I never told my mom about the second package, and I haven't seen the mirror or the figure since. But every now and then, when I catch my reflection in the mirror or a window, I get this awful feeling that something is standing just out of frame, waiting for me to notice. Okay, this story is something my friend Matt swears is true. He's not the type to believe in ghosts or anything supernatural, but after hearing this, I can tell it still haunts him. It happened when Matt was 12. That Christmas, his uncle gave him a hand-carved wooden soldier. It wasn't store-bought. His uncle had apparently picked it up at some antique shop while traveling. It was about a foot tall, painted in faded red and blue, with a stiff, hollow stare and a sword glued to its side. The detail was incredible, almost too good. Matt wasn't really into stuff like that, but he figured it was cool enough to keep, so he put it on his dresser. At first, everything seemed fine, but a few nights later, Matt woke up feeling off. He didn't know why, but something in the room felt different. His eyes drifted to the soldier on the dresser. It was standing exactly where he'd left it, but its sword wasn't at its side anymore. It was raised, pointed straight at his bed. He thought he must have imagined putting it down differently. Maybe the arm moved when he set it down. He got up, adjusted the sword to its original position, and went back to sleep. But the next night, it happened again. This time, the soldier wasn't just holding the sword differently, it was turned slightly, like it was facing him. Matt was freaked out now. He knew he hadn't touched it since moving the sword the night before. He told his parents about it at breakfast, but they just laughed it off. "It's probably just falling over or something," his dad said. Matt decided to test it. That night, before going to bed, he placed the soldier in a very specific position, facing the wall, sword lowered, and a book leaning against its feet so it couldn't move. When he woke up the next morning, the book was on the floor and the soldier was standing upright again, facing his bed with the sword pointed at him. At this point, Matt was too scared to keep it in his room. He shoved it into a box, taped it shut, and left it in the garage. For a few days, things were normal again. But then, late one night, Matt woke up to the sound of scratching. It was faint but steady, coming from inside his room. He turned on the light and froze. The wooden soldier was standing in the corner of his room. It was impossible. The box was still taped shut in the garage. He checked the next morning, but there the soldier was, back on his dresser, staring at him with that blank, hollow expression. Matt begged his dad to get rid of it. His dad, finally fed up, took the soldier out to the backyard and tossed it into the fire pit. Matt watched as the flames engulfed it. But the story doesn't end there. A week later, on New Year's Eve, a package showed up at the door. It was wrapped in brown paper and addressed to Matt. There was no return address. Inside the box was the wooden soldier, completely intact, its paint still charred in places from the fire. Matt says he doesn't remember much about that night except that his dad grabbed the soldier and drove off with it. He never told Matt what he did with it or where it went. But even now, Matt says he sometimes hears faint scratching sounds at night, like tiny wooden feet shuffling across the floor. And sometimes, when he dreams, he sees the soldier standing at the foot of his bed, its sword raised, waiting for him to wake up.